Let me ask you a few things. Let's talk about the video now. I keep referring to that video, and we're showing it throughout this piece here. That's a really impressive video. Let's talk a little bit about the guns. That's what I've been wanting to know. I could tell a couple of guns you were shooting, but I couldn't tell exactly what you're shooting. It looked like you were shooting maybe a Smith & Wesson, your handgun, maybe a Benelli shotgun, but I couldn't tell what your other gun was. Talk a little bit about the three guns that you actually use in this video.
The first gun that I started out with was a stage gun, and the stage gun is a gun that the match provides for you, and everyone has to use that exact same gun in that stage. And it was an ACR full auto. Okay,
and what was the shotgun you used?
The shotgun was a Benelli M2 12 gauge, and my pistol was a Smith & Wesson M&P Pro 9mm.
Let's talk about the shotgun for a second. There's obviously a lot of people out there, young men and young ladies like yourself, who may be thinking there's no way I could shoot a 12 gauge. Just out of curiosity, what do you weigh, Katie?
I weigh around 95 pounds.
Looked like you handled yourself pretty well with that 12 gauge to me.
Thank you.
You know, you see a lot of people just growing up down here in Louisiana. Of course, we do a lot of hunting, duck hunting and bird hunting, things like that. And, you know, a lot of people at a young age like that are pretty intimidated by a 12 gauge. You mentioned earlier that when your dad took you shooting that you preferred to shoot the bigger guns, the heavy caliber guns. How long have you been shooting a 12 gauge?
I actually started shooting a 12 gauge last year around June. I got a 20 gauge for my birthday, so I used that for the first couple of matches, but then I saw my dad and everyone else use the 12 gauge and I wanted to try that.
This may or may not be something you know the answer to, but I know that when people see this video, especially online, there's always somebody out there that wants to know details that don't necessarily interest me, but they're going to want to know. Do you know what the load was in the shotgun? Do you know what you were actually shooting, the type of load that it was?
I was shooting Winchester AA Birdshot 7.5.
Okay. So basically like a dove shot or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, in the pistol, I saw obviously saw how many rounds you were shooting in it. How many? What's the capacity of that Smith & Wesson M&P that you were shooting?
I have an extended pad on my magazine, so it allows me to hold 22 rounds.
Okay, and that was is that a full metal jacket that you were shooting?
Yes.
What was the grain, just out of curiosity? Again, these are questions I know somebody's going to ask, so I may as well ask them now.
I was shooting Montana Gold 124 grain.
Okay. Well, I thought you handled yourself real well. I saw some people giving you a hard time, and I think it was in fun, but I saw you missed a couple of shots. So that was about 10 seconds that they knocked off of your score. Is that correct?
No, I made up the shot. You only get 5 seconds off if you finish the stage and you don't make up the shot. If I wouldn't have made them up and I would have just skipped that target without shooting it, then I would have got 10 seconds.
Oh, okay, very good. So it didn't hurt you as bad as you thought it would have, right?
Yeah, no.
Now, for people that don't understand that type of competition that you were shooting in, I find it's pretty interesting. I've never competed in it. I'd love to actually, but I never have. Explain a little bit. You know, you're actually being timed, and you also have to shoot an accurate shot. So you can't just sprint through this whole course and blast shots away, because if you don't hit anything, you get hammered on your penalties. But at the same time, you can't be too slow and just I guess creep through the target. Or the range rather, because then it's gonna take you too much time, and the time that it takes you is gonna knock off your time. Tell me what your biggest challenge is of deciding, do you go a little bit faster and maybe sacrifice on the aim, or do you really focus on making sure that you take the time to aim and make up your time in between targets?
You have to kind of have a good balance on both of them. Whenever I first started shooting, I was really slow, but I hit all of my shots. And now it's kind of gotten even. I miss a little, but I go a little bit faster. Okay.
And Smith & Wesson, the gun you were shooting, and not that I have anything against it, but why Smith & Wesson? Is that a gun you chose, or is that your preference? Have you shot others that you like, or that's just the one that you prefer?
my dad shoots a Glock, and that's what I was originally going to shoot, but whenever I first started shooting, they didn't have interchangeable back straps, so my hands weren't big enough to fit around the gun. But Smith & Wesson had interchangeable back straps, so I could fit around the gun. My hands could fit around the gun.
Well, Smith & Wesson will be excited to know that you just said that. I'm sure that they're going to be tickled to death knowing that you just gave them a reason why their gun was chosen over a Glock. So now, any modifications to the guns? I know you have the, you mentioned the back strap on the Smith & Wesson, and of course the extended magazine on the Smith & Wesson. The Benelli, did you do any modifications to the Benelli?
To the Benelli, I had the loading port at the bottom where you put the shells in. I had it welded so that my thumb wouldn't get stuck whenever I was loading fast.
Okay, okay. I noticed you got pretty efficient at loading too, walking through the course. That's got to be kind of tough, trying to walk and load your rounds and your shotgun shells into a shotgun. Is that one of the things that you kind of had to really get used to?
That's what I practice almost every night, and yeah, I had to get used to that because the faster you load, the faster you get to finish the course.
Right. Well, in watching your video, to me, that was the one thing that I could see me really stumbling on, was loading that shotgun and walking and keeping in mind, you know, where you're going to your next target. That seemed like a pretty huge challenge, and it seemed like you handled it very well. You know, young people that may think they can't do that would probably do well to watch this video and realize that, yeah, you've been doing this for a little while and you're comfortable around a firearm, but you know, all it takes is practice. And I'm not saying they'd be right where you are and doing what you're doing, but you know, there's a lot of gun ranges across the country that have different types of shooting and things like that. And if a young person's not comfortable doing a moving competition like that, there's plenty of target practice ranges and competitions out there that young people could go to. Your friends, do any of your friends, are they involved in firearms at all?
I have one friend that goes to my school, and her dad owns a gun shop, and she does a lot of pistol shooting. She, like you said, she stands there and shoots. She doesn't go through all the courses like I do. I do have a friend that lives in Georgia, and she shoots 3-gun with me. She just turned 18 a couple days ago, and she's like my role model, and she's a ladies national champion.
Well, Katie, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Again, I have to say this, I was so impressed with your video, the way you handled yourself, the way you safely handled yourself, and I have to keep stressing that as well. I think, again, young people would probably do a lot of good to watch this video, because to me it shows how responsible you can be with a firearm, and you clearly have it. Obviously, your parents did a wonderful job teaching you as a young person how to respect a firearm, and that's probably the number one thing besides safety, is the respect of that firearm. And clearly you don't look at a gun as a toy. And is there anything you'd like to say before we close the interview?
I'd like to say that that young children should try to know guns as best as they can, and I'd love to see new people get interested in the sport.
Well, I can tell you, as a pro-gun person myself, I'm excited to know that there are people like you out there that are not only on board with trying to pass that torch on for those of us that are trying to protect our Second Amendment rights, but doing such a great job at it. And I think young people like you, who are well-spoken, well-mannered, respectful, and you handle yourself like you're doing, I think you do a lot for the pro-gun cause out there, because there's such a misconception about us gun owners out there, and I think somebody like you do a lot for our sport. And I appreciate what you do and how you handle yourself, and we're totally excited about having you more involved in our show in the future, and we wish you the best of luck. And Katie, once again, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
I like to picture Jesus as a ninja fighting off evil samurai.